Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by the up-and-coming Ellen Woomer. Ellen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for asking. So Ellen is just now really breaking into the scene. She actually just finished her own movie that she wrote, directed, and starred in called A Lost Space in the Return. What can you tell us about that a little bit?
Well, first of all, it is a short and it is in post-production, so we just finished. It's on 35 millimeter film, which if you guys don't know too much about that, most of Christopher Nolan's movies have been shot on that. It is my story. I had a partner, Ferguson, who helped me out with it, and he actually owns the camera, and it's an old camera. I think he got from a RoboCop set, but don't quote me on that because I'm not entirely sure, but it's like old big. He sits it on top of his shoulder that we got to shoot in. I've never shot in film before, so this was my first time experiencing it. And the anxiety that you get on that is unbelievable. You have to rehearse, and then when you're actually shooting, you hear this ticking noise of the film. It goes tick, 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 and that is just money being spent. So you kind of have to get it on like the first or second try, which we did. But it was just a crazy experience because I had to do so many parts. And then as soon as, I didn't have time to really get into my character as much as I would have liked because I was doing other roles. But I think we pulled it off really well. It's a story about my personal life. It kind of deals with depression and anxiety and stuff growing up from how I was raised, religion, kind of all incorporated into one. Because it's a short, I can't give too much away, but
Sure.
it'll be coming up in the next couple months. Fingers crossed. So,
well, anytime you have any updates, please throw them my way. I would be happy to promote it as much as I can.
Yes,
I'm very excited to see it from what we've talked about. The 35 millimeter sold me. When you said that, I was sold. And I got to go back to that RoboCop thing. If it was from RoboCop, I'm a Detroit boy. So that's super awesome for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I got to double check, but I'm like 99% sure. So I'll get back to
text me and let me know when you find that out, because like I said, huge RoboCop guy. As a kid,
awesome.
It was Detroit,
Yeah.
So I would walk around all over the place, just your move, creep. That was like my go-to line as a kid.
Awesome.
And you are starring in the upcoming horror feature. You are the lead Piper in Shadowmarsh, which also has a dynamite cast behind you as well. What can you tell us about Shadowmarsh a little bit?
So we're kind of in pre-production right now. We kind of have the date set up a little bit. We haven't necessarily gotten the script yet. There has been like a lot that we've been working through before to be able to get ready to shoot. But basically it's about me and my uncle traveling back into our old town that we used to live in. My mom has passed away. Kind of like that, setup of a lot of horror films where you're going back into an old town that you've abandoned, and this creature with a cult is there, and I'm trying to kind of uncover the past, which my mom has been involved with. So I can't give too much out. I know that we're shooting early next year, I think January-ish, and we're shooting for the summer for it to come out. But as far as the cast, I had no idea up until a little bit ago who was going to be in it. And I saw that you had a podcast with Dave Sheridan, who who's also going to be in the movie. Lou Temple's also going to be in it, and a lot of other characters. But I'm like, I need to get my research going and watch more of their stuff so I don't feel like an idiot on set.
Right. And I do want to say Dave's episode just premiered right before yours. And Dave is the kindest, nicest guy, so willing to help out. We talked we talked forever after. We talked until his phone died. So like that's the type of guy he is. Such a kind, gentle guy.
I cannot wait to meet him. That's really good to hear.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people when we had our campaign launch that were just obsessed with him.
Yeah.
And this pastoral, what is it? His Doofy.
Doofy 2020.
Yes. A lot of people love that character, so I'm excited.
Oh, you're gonna love him. He's such a kind, gentle guy. And I do want to preface this. I want to make sure that you do know any updates you have with these, please, both of them, A Lost Space and The
course.
Return
Yeah.
and Shadow Marsh. I'll be happy to promote them on all my social media. I'm so excited from the conversations we've had. I love short films. Bag of Tricks is one of my favorite shorts. And that's actually getting turned into a full-length feature. So there's no telling how far this can go. So I'm so excited for you. I'm very excited about the journey you have coming up, and I'm glad that I can be a little part of it. So thank you for allowing me into your world.
Thank you. I should be thanking you. You're the one that let me onto this channel. And yes, as far as the updates, I get overly excited. So as soon as I know one piece of information, I try to put it out and let everybody know. So I will definitely keep you in the loop on everything as far as that.
I appreciate that. Now, as excited as I am for what you have coming up, I'm really excited to know something about your past. We are talking about your first horror movie, and the first horror movie that you ever watched was
Saw. The first Saw. And when I told a lot of people about this, they were like, oh, it's a masterpiece, it's art. And at the time when I first saw it, I did not think that at all.
Right. To be honest with you, I love Saw. Obviously I got the pig mask back here. Yeah, I got the shirt.
I know. You came prepared.
Yes, and to me, I've talked about this a lot. If Saw had stopped at Saw 3, I think it would be the best horror trilogy of all time.
And I've heard that from a couple people that I've talked to, that they agree with that as well.
Yeah, it's so realistic. It has like that feeling, at least the first 3. There's a lot of feeling of, and there's heartbreak, there's sadness, it's scary. It has a little bit of everything that I love as a fan of the horror genre. So you're talking about Saw. How old were you the first time that you had seen this movie?
Okay, so I feel like long-term memory loss, so I'm just gonna like shoot in a range. It was probably when I was like 12 or 13. So it was my teenage years. To be completely honest with you, I was very naive as a child. I was not brought into any R-rated or scary, anything that's bad, because of the way I was raised, very religious. So I didn't get to see a lot of those movies until honestly like recently, but I dove into it around like 12, 13, 14. And yeah, I mean, I remember a time I went over to my friend's house when I was like 7 or 8, and her parents had something on the TV. What's that one with the big Prometheus?
Oh, okay.
Okay, I heard like 2 seconds of someone like dying, and we were behind the couch playing Barbies, and I was like, this is too scary, I gotta leave. My mom would never allow me to watch this, but I didn't actually watch that, so I didn't consider it to be my first horror.
You sound like my daughter.
Yeah, very anxious child. So the fact that I even dove in, and after I saw the first one, it was like me and my friends would watch one every single week until we finished them, was crazy to me. But the first one that I can actually remember that I watched fully was the first Saw. And it was terrifying for me as a young, naive Christian child.
Well, we're talking about how it was terrifying for you and how it affected you. So I want to know, which scene affected you the most in the film?
Well, I would say it all affected me, but just I think the screaming, and there's a particular scream in horror movies sometimes that just really, as a kid, drills into your head, and you just always hear it. But the end scene, when his name was Adam, right? Because I haven't watched that one in a bit. The doctor, I think, leaves to go say that he was getting help or whatever, and then obviously doesn't come back for him, and he's trapped, like literally trapped, and just screaming bloody murder. And I was like, wow, yeah, as a child, that would be really fucking terrifying if that was me. So
right. And just the way that John Kramer too is just game over, and then he shuts it.
Game over.
It's like all this built up suspense and tension and everything, and you're just like, no, go back for him, or fucking cut off your own leg, or do whatever you need to do to get the hell out of there. But
And then you look back, you watch the sequels, and then I think it
yeah,
was Saw 6 or 7, one of the ones, they go back to that
we had
room
a
and you see that
montage.
Adam's
Yeah.
skeleton is just there. Like he's
That
just
was
dead. Like,
that brought up suppressed memories of mine that I didn't think that I still had, that really freaked me out again. And I was like, oh shit, like that poor guy. I feel so
right.
bad for people in horror movies, even though it's all fake most of the time. I'm just like, I like, as an actor, I put
Mhm.
myself in their situation and like really get the emotional aspect. So I think
Yeah.
it's worth. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but yeah, it was pretty. It stuck with me for a while.
I'm the same way as you. Like, I'm not an actor, but I'm one of those people that always puts myself in the movie.
Right.
So that's why I think I get more turned on by horror movies, which not a sexual turned on, but just
No,
like
no,
I
for
think that's
sure.
why I'm more attracted to horror movies, because you do have that, that anxiety and that fear, but it also is just like it makes you feel so awesome when you're done with that movie.
Right.
Like you walk out of the cinema and into the bright lights outside and you're still
Like,
scared and
there's still life outside and shit.
yes. Yes, so awesome. So when someone talks about Saw, what is the first thing that pops into your head?
Honestly, the cover of that Saw, the foot. And I'll tell you why. Because before I could watch any of those things, going back into the Blockbuster days, as a young kid, and we were, like our parents would come in and you'd go down all the aisles and you just see like the crazy art on the front of all of the horror movies, as you'd go down the aisles, and that one just stuck out so much to me. And obviously after seeing it, I just think of like loose limbs, decapitated heads,
Yeah.
just absolute blood gushing out of people's bodies, just because it's so gory.
Well, my parents owned a video store growing up when I was a little kid, so I definitely know what you mean. I mean, walking through the aisles was our YouTube back then. Like that's how we decided what we were going to watch. Those were our trailers, was looking at cover art. And I think that's why, to me, I'm such a big fan of cover art. I'm still a big fan of movie. I've got probably 80 movie posters in my house. Because growing up in a
Amazing.
video store, it's just something that's what I did in my free time. My job at the video store was we had a little cassette rewinder. So when they would bring stuff to the drop box, my job was to take the cassettes and put them into the rewinder and make sure they were rewound. And my
Really?
pay for that was I got to take a movie home with me.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, my horror life started with House from 1986. My
Okay.
grandma got tired of me renting Ghostbusters, so she let me rent House, and that's how it started. So that's why I like to talk about this with people. I think it really brings back good memories of
But your
nostalgic memories of what
grandma?
we did. Oh,
You
my
said your
grandma was
grandma
so
told you
awesome.
about that? So she really got you into the midst of the horror like pretty early.
Oh yeah, well see, but this was as far as grandma went. Like House was like, because like if you watch House now, even it's more of a horror comedy,
Right.
a little drama in there. But like I had very very young parents. My parents were very young, so I was with grandma most of the time, and that's kind of what we did, was watch movies together. And she was just like, "Let's try this," because I'm so tired of watching Ghostbusters. And after that, like the only other horror movies grandma really let me watch was like, Nightmare on Elm Street. Night of the Living Dead was one of her favorite movies. We watched that a lot. My grandma was really into the
My
social
goodness.
commentary of Night of the Living Dead. So
I
I was
love
really lucky to
that.
have the grandma I had.
Okay, awesome. I did not necessarily have that experience. My experience with anything rated R, I normally had to sneak in or
Sure.
lie and go over to a friend's house and watch that stuff. Until now, I'm like, oh wait, I still can rent R-rated movies
Right.
without people's permission, which is kind of nice.
See, I
But
was the
especially
friend
for my movie, yeah, I have to
that you would come over to. I had all the movies. So all my friends would be like, "Hey, let's go to Ken's house and watch scary movies." Yes, let's
exactly.
do that.
Yes. Yes. I need to find someone like that out there that has just the full bookshelf of all of them so I can just watch them every night and be scared every night. It'd be great.
Absolutely. So when we're going back to Saw, we talked about which scene affected you the most. Now I want to know, what is your favorite scene from the movie?
My favorite scene from the movie. Honestly, it's probably the last 10 minutes of the film. I think I know that's not a
Yeah.
scene. He's leaning over the guy's body, and this is after the guy had left, the doctor, and he's looking and finds his own cassette.
Hmm.
And kind of starts, it's like you're sitting there and putting all these pieces together, and then you realize that the other guy who had been dead the entire time stands back up, and it's just a mind fuck. And then you're just like, wait. And then I'm like, well, how did that guy stay there the entire time dead on the floor? And then that goes into him obviously not being able
Sedating.
to or whatever. But like uncovering, knowing now that you didn't know at the beginning. And it almost makes you want to like go from the start and then rewatch the whole thing again, knowing
Yeah.
what you know now. But then I like how they take those pieces and put it into the other films. But
Yep.
yeah, it's probably the last bit of the film is like my favorite.
And a thing that I think is underrated about Saw, because people always talk about how scary it is, the traps, stuff like that. But to me, the score, especially, at that end scene when you really get that dun 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 dun, like it's super epic, and you feel that music, and
it makes everything that you just watched come together. So
absolutely it does. So now, which again, I hate saying favorites. That's so dark for this, but what is your favorite kill from the movie? Which kill do you think affected you the most?
that's tough because I don't want to keep saying Adam, but okay, well, what represents kill as far as people like cutting their limbs off? Because for
Right,
that,
because there's a lot of
that was
traps.
right. That was a pretty intense one to watch. And
Mhm.
him being a doctor, I know that he probably knew how to do it and what would be the safest or whatever. But again, it goes back to like, okay, here's what's weird about Saw. Hang on, I'll get to that in just a second. It's
Okay.
why I watched the first one and why I wanted to continue watching the rest was it's very dark and gritty, but you almost, and it makes me feel sick, but you almost want, you're like intrigued by it, right? I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of like how white people love their crime shows on Netflix or something like that. It's like you're like, wow, these deaths are so I would have never thought about half of these, right? And
Right.
the specific ways that he does it. But anyways, when the doctor's cutting off his foot, it's just it's a lot to take in. I know that he ends up dying outside in the hallway, so I'm gonna use that as a death. But and then he like doesn't he like use a pipe or something to seal his leg, his amputated foot at the end outside?
I think that he uses the heat, the hot off a pipe to
Yeah. To like
yeah,
seal the end of his foot that he just cut off.
like
Okay,
cauterize the
absolutely
wound, or however you say it.
I can't. It's the desperate, how desperate people get to be able to save themselves, but then it doesn't happen all the time. So you have to watch how anxious they are to get out of it, and then being and seeing some of the deaths from that. I'm remembering another one, but I know you want me to stick to Saw 1. So
That's okay.
yeah,
See,
the doctor
no.
scene was probably the worst to swallow.
So we talked about your first horror movie. Now, I never let anybody know I'm going to ask him this question, so I'm going to throw it in there. I'm going to go scream on you here, Ellen. What is your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie?
Okay, favorite, right? That's always so hard for me. The first one that pops into my head is Hereditary. I know that was more recent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you put that in horror or more
Absolutely.
or whatever.
I can say with Hereditary, I've never in my life, and I've been alive for 34 years. I've been in cinema, film. I've watched movies my entire life. I've never, ever had anything like when we were in the cinema and the pole scene happened. Just the collective of everyone in there, because we went opening night, and just the shock. Nobody knew that was going to happen, obviously. It hadn't been spoiled for us yet. But when she leaned out the window and the pole scene happened, you just felt it with the whole crowd in there. Everybody was.
And then it's like 5 minutes of just him sitting in the front of the car. Sometimes this happens to me when I'm driving late at night. I'm like, I can't imagine what he would have felt like. And he's just like, and can't look back. And that's just, it's horrible. It's horrible. But the whole movie put together, I thought was really, really great. It's butting heads with Sinister. Another
Nice.
one that stuck with
Love
me.
the first Sinister. I love the first
Yeah.
Sinister.
I know. And then they went on and did a couple more, but I always go back to watching Sinister. And then the third would probably be The Ring, which that was another one I watched growing up, like one of my first ones. I either picked Saw or The Ring, but I was like, no, Saw's the one that I remember for sure that was
Right.
probably my first. But The Ring's up there as far as just what stuck with me now and what I continue to still watch, which is kind of weird.
One of the biggest jump scares I've ever had was from The Ring. The part we were again in the theater, and the part where the mom's like, I saw her face, and then you have that loud noise and the girl's face is all messed up. Like that totally got me so bad.
That is the scene. Oh my god, I was okay. Real quick, I was hungover one day. I woke up really early. I decided to watch the movie in broad fucking daylight, and I swear to God, something super creepy. There's two scenes. The scene where she pulls that string out. I was eating Popeyes, and I opened my mouth, and at the exact same time, there was a piece of fucking hair. I was like, how's this happen? And then at the very end of the movie, sorry, I'm yelling. I get a phone call from myself. I am not making this shit up. I have a witness that was there. And I was like, why am I calling myself? This is so weird. And I was watching the movie while it happened.
At least you didn't hear 7 days.
I didn't know. I couldn't answer. I was like, I couldn't.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. It's like it happened at the same spot when she was pulling out. I pulled out a piece of hair from my food. And then the call was at the end, like towards the end of the movie, and I was like, either The Ring has some rights to get into people's phones and shit to do that, or I'm just going crazy.
Right.
So I haven't watched it since then, but that was a traumatic experience.
That is awesome. And see, honestly, this is why I don't tell people I'm going to ask them that question, because I love the fact that you have to give me a genuine answer right off the top of your head. You know, like I love that. For me, it's obviously going to be House forever. I think it's a fantastic movie, but when we're talking newer films, a film that I really like, which either people love it or they hate it, I'm a huge fan of The Cabin in the Woods. I think that movie is absolutely brilliant. It has the most cliche title, which makes you think, oh, it's going to be another Cabin in the Woods movie, but it's not. It's actually one of the smartest, most well-done horror movies I've ever seen, with the comedy, the horror, the unpredictability, the twist it's just such a fantastic movie. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods, shut this off for a second or mute me. At the end, everybody on the planet dies. Like, that's so crazy to me. It's such a crazy ending. So
I feel like I'm mixing that up with something else. Do you know the main character, the actor's name of who was in that?
Well,
that wasn't Jennifer Lawrence's movie, was it?
No, this had Chris Hemsworth right before he did Thor, and it had a couple other people that are just like lower name actors. But it's, if you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods, you have to watch this movie. It will blow your mind. Like I said, I know that when you hear Cabin in the Woods, you're like, oh, okay, a bunch of kids go to a cabin.
No. I think that's something I've always scrolled past, and for some reason, I don't think I've watched it, which is fine. I'm still gonna pretend like I didn't hear what you said, because I didn't. I was thinking of, I feel like a lot of horror movies have like cabin or woods in it. So I'm like, okay, wait, which one is it? And I think I was thinking of the one with the skin disease or whatever.
Cabin Fever.
Cabin Fever. Okay, you said Cabin in the Woods. I was like, yeah, I think I've seen that. And then I realized, no, I didn't. It was Cabin Fever.
Me talking about the ending, I promise it didn't ruin it. This is still, when you find out, this movie explains why every single horror movie has ever happened. It shows, it's so brilliant. Like, oh my gosh, please, after you watch this, text me and let me know what you think, because I'm so interested to know, because
watch it tonight.
It's one of my favorites. I could watch it over and over again. So we do always end these with a skull count. We're going back to Saw on how this movie affected you, the overall production, the overall movie. We're going from 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. You can use half and quarter skulls. What would you rank the first Saw film?
This is how I feel like as a movie, not how I feel like traumatized wise.
Right. Yep. How you rate it as a movie in general, the overall quality of the movie.
Honestly, I'd probably rate it a solid 5. I mean, because once I watched that, then I wanted to watch everything else. Like I
You
think
always,
it's a good base to, and not just all the saws, but just horror in general. It really got like, it was a feeling that I thought was anxiety before, but it's like a rush that you get.
yeah.
And that's exactly what that movie gave me. And honestly, I'm really happy because now I get to star in one myself, and I'll just take everything I saw and fingers crossed, place it into my movies. So
I can't wait. Don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you.
of course,
Everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're going down here in the description, clicking the links. I got her social media. You want to follow her so you can get the updates from her as well as me. And make sure you guys keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.